Hey guys, so I am back. It is January 20th and yeah, I just been pretty much recording all day. Just got finished eating. I'm actually recording a day in the life video, and I just did a vlog. So oh goodness, this every time it rains I have I don't know, the allergies just flare up. Something in my throat. But I told you guys last month, and I think in my 2016 goals, or actually, yeah, it was in that video, that I would follow up the girls, my teens video on homeschool versus public school, my opinions and how they went to public school, and you know what I did, how did I come to that decision, basically. As you guys know, they were at some point public school. So I mean, we started out pretty much that way. I started out homeschooling kids, and that's just, back then it was not, this is like 20 years ago. There was no, homeschool revolution going on. And what I was doing with the kids was basically, if I was to categorize it, it was homeschooling them. That's just something I believe. Education starts at home and starts in infancy, and that's what I did with my kids. I don't believe in the kid is 5, you send them to school, and school does a job, and that's it. School is daycare, pretty much. Everything that your child should know, you should have already taught them by the time they are school age, and you send them off to school. And I know that is the reason why a lot of children are not thriving in school, because their parents have this notion that school is going to do everything for them. Well, the teacher will. Well, the teacher has to contend with 25, 30 kids. And I have been a public school teacher, kindergarten, first grade level, as well as middle high school. And I know that is not the case. Not every teacher has the time to sit there and contend with their child on a regular basis. So, excuse me, I say that you guys that are giving your kids 15 minutes, teaching them, whatever, that's more time than they would get in a public school, one-on-one. So, very early on, one of my girls was difficult. I want to say, I mean, she started out from birth just a very colicky baby. We didn't know what was wrong, but we worked all of that out. Because I had to seek outside resources and try to figure out what was wrong. Eventually, it got to a point of therapy and testings, and she was around 3, 4 when we started to explore this options. They took something from her baby, so she's crying. And I was more or less concerned with her behavior. Not, I mean, so much looking for a diagnosis, but I knew something was different about her. And this was before they were even, there's all kinds of labels that are put on kids today. There were no labels back then. But the option came up to be just developmental, cognitive, and IQ tests. Now, I'm just going to put this out there as a disclaimer. I do not recommend that you go and IQ test your kids. Those tests are very expensive, and I think probably the basic ones start off like around $700. And yeah, not everybody can do that. But as a parent seeking answers, or a parent seeking answers, that's what we were into. Sorry about that. We didn't really have to worry about too much, insurance kind of picked up a lot of the stuff, so it wasn't horrible financially. But to go on and have to test, or want to test the rest of them, that became a necessity as well. So that's basically where we went. I'm not going to get into the actual score. If you guys watch that video, the girls are still pushing me to this day to find out their scores, and that's something I will never tell them. I just told them Mensa level. If you guys are familiar with Mensa or not, look it up, MENSA, Mensa level. And so once we had all of that, I had a baseline and I kind of knew what was going on. We talked, therapy-wise, what was going on in her head. And so I knew, I had to plan on what I'm going to do. So I knew, I had some sort of direction, and I needed some help to figure out how to deal with this child. She basically, there were some quote unquote labels, diagnoses, and that's very important, because this helped me and helped us as parents to understand how to guide them, how to nurture them, how to raise them. Because it had a lot to do with their thinking, how they process things, how they learn things. So, it was worth it to get it done, for these kids. But I'm saying this had been, later on down the line. So, anywho, what did we do? I, did what I did, with the kids at home myself. So they were, a homeschool environment. Things were set up accordingly. And that was just my own doing. That's just how I, had things laid out around the house. And it worked that way. You have to kind of act a part. I think 4 years old, she became kindergarten age in the state we lived in, and yeah, because she has a late birthday. So 4 years old was fine, and so she went to kindergarten for, I'm trying to think, because it was so short. It wasn't, I don't know, probably, it wasn't even a week. And we had issues. And so I said, okay, I'm going to pull her out. The teachers talked to me. The principal talked to me. And they said, okay, what are you going to do? And I said, I'll just keep her at home and homeschool her. They said, we have, a great option for you. And I said, okay. So I took what they had. And in our school district where we were in Northern California at the time, they had this huge building, and it was the curriculum building, and it housed, all of the curriculum, the teacher resources and things like that. Basically where they would pull the, the curriculum for the teachers and things like that to go to the school. Like a giant library. And so I went there. And the lady says, okay, I had to, I guess, fill out something, and that was it. And I didn't have to do anything to, withdraw her anything. I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe I did and I just don't remember. But I just filled out the information and gave her the child's age and, grade level and things like that. And she looked around the room and she said, okay, what do you want? And I looked like, huh? She basically, it was whatever you needed for your child or whatever you wanted for your child to teach them from, to help them learn. It was, get it and take it. And so, I mean, there was all kinds of stuff from Play-Doh to Play-Doh. So I picked up, all kinds of stuff. I mean, curriculum, textbooks, workbooks, puzzles, games, manipulatives, all kinds of stuff. And I had, that stuff to work with. And it was fine. We did all of that. And, schooling was fine. And she still seemed a little, I don't know, a little off. And at that point, I found out I was pregnant. So that kind of threw a little loop into it, because I think I got a little, I don't want to say like worried, but I don't know if I doubted myself, because I think I said in that video with the girls that I pulled them out or I put them back because I doubted myself. I didn't doubt myself. I just didn't have that type of direction, and I was not that, I kind of felt like I wasn't that equipped yet, because I was just starting out. It was something new. Nobody I knew was doing this, and I didn't have a support. That was mainly it. Besides the school, but I mean, it was school. So I wasn't really sure what to do, and with no support system, it was just, parents. I said, okay, maybe I need to put her back in. Maybe this is, a sign, having to deal with another baby. And then I already had a 3 and a 2-year-old, or 3 and she was almost 2, I think. It did become a little overwhelming, and then the other one was already 5. So anywho, I said maybe I just need to, they need to go back to school, and so that's what I did. And it turned out I requested a new teacher, because the teacher she had was fairly young and she did not know. I think it was her first year. I'm not knocking first year teachers, but I never let them get a first year teacher right off, because I'm not going to say that. I did have one in the first grade that had a first year teacher. She was awesome. But not right off. So everything was fine. And what I continued to do was supplement. And they said, you can still keep, whatever. You can still come get what you need. You can supplement as long as you want. And so that's what I did. And she was already in a good, now the school district was okay, but she was in a magnet school. This particular child was in a magnet school. And then I had another one in a, it was a pilot. It was a Montessori elementary. And so I had that, yes, 2 different schools. But they were awesome. And I really, for an elementary school to be Montessori based, oh my gosh, awesome, awesome, awesome. And I would go in with the kids. I would go to school with the kids. So this is, what made the difference. This is why I let them continue to go to school, because I would go to school with them. So certain days I would pick. It may not be all day. It may be just an hour. I would go in and just sit and observe. Sometime I would help the teacher. But we had transition issues. That was a lot to do with it. So I would sit and just observe. That helped tremendously. My presence being there, showing that I took an active role in the kids' education, made a difference in how the teacher perceived me, how the teacher perceived them, and how the teacher perceived that my expectation level of schooling, my child. They respected that. It just, they thought, okay, well, she cared enough to get down here, then, we need to really be on it. So the rapport I built with them was awesome. And this went on. Of course, we did move states. We came to Texas, and we ended up in an, I already knew the school district was awesome. Actually, we ended up, I don't want to go too much in it, but we came to Dallas first and ended up, we built a house in Dallas and ended up not closing. We were a couple days from closing. The job had a transfer to Austin. So we didn't actually get to build or close on that house. And I was kind of disappointed because I had small kids. I had a new baby, and that was just not the ideal situation to be moving to a state and really be blind. We didn't know anybody here. I, was leaving my mom and, with the newborn. I'm talking like 3 weeks old. That's not cool. But I did what I had to do. So we ended up in Austin and searched around and things like that, and ended up on a suburb. But the school was there, and she, did fine. I continued to supplement whatever they were doing at school. I did, above and beyond at home. Same thing. I would go in and sit in the classes and, do what I had to do to make sure that they are getting what they needed. And at this point, yes, the test scores, because we were changing districts, came into play. I had to sit before them and everybody, the school officials, and explain to them we have a child in exceptional level. And they had already gathered that because they were looking at a 4-year-old that could read. I think basically she was on a first grade level at that point. So they knew something was different about her because none of those kids could read. And, they knew about my kids. None of those other kids could read in either one of those classes. So, before we had actually left California, I think one of them was in first grade. And at that point, the option was to put her in third grade classroom, skip her, or leave her in first grade classroom and give her third grade work. So I had to, we had to sit down and make that decision as a family, what we wanted to do. And my child is very small. She's always been small. And I just thought, those kids in the third grade are going to swallow her. Because they were at least, a foot taller than her. And it was like a Doogie Howser type situation where you don't want, you have to think about that. You have a very smart kid, and then, a 10-year-old going to college. Can they actually handle that mentally? Can they handle it socially? And I thought that may be a little too much because the child is only 4. So I said, we're going to leave her in this first grade classroom. And we will give her third grade work. I will work with her. If I have to come to school, continue. That's what I'll do. We'll get it done. And I just didn't want her to be bored sitting there listening to the teacher, and then the teacher saying she's not getting it and she actually is, that type of thing. So I had to keep that communication with all these teachers and the psychologists and everything. And what do? we had a couple of periods throughout the day where she would actually go to third grade classroom because the teacher could not, there were things that needed to be instructed and she could not stay in that first grade classroom. She had to go. So she went to the third grade classroom and they took care of her. Those kids loved her. They would be outside for recess playing with her, and the other child as well. We just, we did the same thing. So, moving back when we went back to Texas, or moved to Texas, it was the same deal. Did we want to move them? This was a fairly new school district, or school in the district. It was one of the top, and what I like about it was the concept. We waited to build in that area because the elementary, middle, and high school were basically all on one, I want to say one campus. There were separate campuses, but one area. Like if you were in a shopping center and you walked from one store to the next because they're right there. That's how they were. And that's what I love. The teachers at all of the schools were our neighbors. The kids would go for sleepovers. Their kids would come to our house. It was a family community. So that is the reason why I continued to let them go to public school. I continued to supplement. Again, I had to present, their scores. They had their records. But we had to go through this every year with assessments and with the testing and things like that to make sure that they were being challenged. And they did not know it very early on that they were in their classroom. And because see, what I had to do each year was in the summer I would just totally homeschool them. And so they were learning all kinds of things that their friends their age were not learning. But I also found out, I would ask them, okay, do you guys want to stay at home for the school year or do you want to go back to the public school? And they said, we want to go to public school. And why? Oh, is it my friends? You want to be with your friends. It wasn't so much the friends, the socialization issue. With them, it was the same thing that I had to grapple with the, early on. They needed to be, okay, if it was okay during the summer when they were learning together, some of the time, okay, because you get a bunch of brainy kids together that need to be challenged. They feed and bounce ideas off each other. But at some point, they wanted to be around kids their own age. Okay? I had stair-step kids, but they wanted to be around kids their own age. We didn't have any sort of, homeschool groups or co-ops or anything like that. So that was, the turning point where I said, okay, you guys, okay, you can go back to school. So what we did, the teachers and I and the principal, we had to come in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We knew what teachers would be able to handle them. Actually, nobody really knew how the kids were selected to go with certain teachers. But there were certain teachers geared to teach certain level kids. And so they always went to the high level classroom. They would get work a grade level or two higher than what they were in. Some of the assignments that they would get would be the same as their peers. And it would also have other components. They didn't realize it. Like, I don't know if they had to do a report on something. My child's particular report always was, kicked up a notch or two. And they didn't realize it till probably like about the 4th, 5th grade. And so-and-so got this and, we had to do this. But the teacher said I have to do such and such and such. And why do I have to do? And then that's when they began to understand, okay, that they were actually getting higher grade level work. And I said, look, okay, this is what it is. Do you want to go beyond your peers and go to this other grade and not have to worry about that? And they said no. Okay, now as a parent, I have to listen to what they're saying as well as use my own judgment. We as parents, and kind of take ourselves out of it, because of course every parent wants, you know, their child to be successful and, you know, be able to thrive and things like that. But I don't want to take away developmentally something that they may need by pushing them beyond their limits. So I didn't want to push them so much academically that they are leaving that developmental stage, you know, with their peers. You know, I'm not going to put a fourth grader into a seventh grade classroom if developmentally she's not ready. Now, I'm not saying educationally or cognitively. You know, that's something totally different. Socially, that's a completely different, you know, deal. But they were thriving in the environment with peers their like age. So that's, you know, that's what we did. Now, for one, if you guys watch that teen series video, one, go back and watch it if you didn't. One of my girls talked about when her teacher came to her and talked about grade skipping. Okay, now I'm going to bring this on the homeschool front as well, and why I see, you know, some things, and I'm curious more or less, would I do it? I'm going to give you some tips on it. Why I wouldn't do it, what it consists of. I know homeschool is different, but it's kind of, you know, it goes hand in hand. That whole situation, now this particular child, not that all of them are not cognitively this way, but this particular child they had this year, actually she was the third child that had done this. She took the standardized test that they had to take during the end of the year, or midpoint anyway. She missed only two, and if I'm not mistaken, it was in math. I actually have that test, and hopefully I can find it and insert a picture of it. If not, one day I will find that test, because I do still have that test. Yeah, random stuff. But she only missed 2 questions out of that whole test. So when a child does that well off the chart on a standardized test like that, they're looking at grade skip. Because a normal child would not just ace a test like that. So she had to take the test again. She took the test again, and, you know, like I say, it's one of those cognitive long couple-hour tests. Every state has them, you know, they're called different things, but that's how they score the schools and stuff like that. But she had to take that test again. This time, she didn't miss anything. So, you know, we got together as a team, parents, everybody first without her, and, you know, child, and said, okay, this is what we need to do, because obviously she's not being challenged enough, and she's, you know, obviously ready. Now, reading played a big part in this, reading comprehension. That's why I'm such a stickler for reading and comprehension, especially when I'm watching you know, other videos, you know, other people's videos and their child, and I hear, oh, we're struggling with this, we're struggling with that. It's reading, or they want to move them up, you know, for whatever reason, and I'm like, are they really comprehending what they're reading? Okay, by the time my child was, or my kids were such and such grade, they were already, you have to be fluently and comprehensive, you know, on your reading levels, at least 2 to 3 grades above before the grade skip comes. Do not grade skip a child that is not reading that fluently and comprehending, because they are going to miss something. You will find out once you move them that they are missing it. They are going to resist, and it's because they don't understand. You may think they're bored, but this is something you should pick up on beforehand. I'm not saying you don't know your child, but do not move them. If it's the simplest words that they're not understanding, keep them where they are, even if it takes months of doing this. And I know a lot of homeschool parents don't talk about child repeating grades. If your child has to repeat a grade, okay, don't repeat the grade. You may not have to repeat the grade. Repeat the semester. Okay, if you stopped schooling in June and your child just did not get it, I'm not sure if everybody assesses their children. I'm getting ready to get into that too. That's a collab. But if you assess your child and your child did not cut it, do not move them up to the next grade for August. Leave them where they are. Catch them up. Use that time in the summer, or if you want the summer off, use that time from August to December to catch them up, and then advance their grades. It will make a difference, especially once they get to the third grade. Things become much more challenging, much more difficult. The workload, the comprehension, because at that point when they're in the third grade, you should not have to sit next to your child making sure they're crossing T's, dotting I's, doing proper punctuation and things like that. Reading to them, you should not be doing any of that. Reading aloud so they can fill in the blank, you shouldn't. This is me. If you don't like it, don't listen. Okay? I'm not just as a parent, but as a teacher as well. So, yeah, she chose, like she said in the video, she did not want to. And I think she, went on to explain a little bit why she didn't want to. So we just left it at that, but we knew where she was. This was a child that, report cards came, if that really matters. She was the one with always an A. And I think she said at some point later on, a couple years later, she finally got a B because something, I don't know, they did one child. It's a situation where only one child could get the highest whatever, so that's what that is. But this child is recognized. She's been recognized as outstanding. But I continue, like I said, I continue year after year, month after month, go to school. At some point, because I know this video is getting kind of long. Let me see if I can check the time on it. I'm going to just kind of stop it in case I need to break it up.